Alright, here's the Colt as we drug it out. It's been quite a few years since this thing's been pulled out. Here's what it looks like. Some critters have definitely found this, and it is full of stuff. Definitely a little bit of dirty. Just found out there's no starter rope, so that's something we're gonna have to fix as well.
I'm sure it's in there.
Yeah, we'll find it somewhere. Hopefully we got the handle and everything. So we're gonna do a little bit of digging. Track's currently stuck, so we'll see what we can do there and get this thing back home and start to play with it. Made it back home with the Colt, and definitely things are a little bit rougher than I thought I had last remembered it, but we're gonna go ahead and see what we can get done. I want to take a snowmobile trip here in about 2 weeks, so it might be an interesting trip, or try to get there. There's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be done here. I need to probably take an inventory of parts and things over the next day or so, try to get what I need on order, and see if I can get it put together so we can take a snowmobile trip here in a couple weeks. One of the first orders of business, we had cleaned out that belly pan a little bit, got most of it out, blown it out, sucked it out there, vacuumed the whole 9 yards. Now, probably just put a hose on this thing and get a little soap on it and get some of the big dirt off it. It would sure look a heck of a lot better and probably make it easier to work on in the long run. So just to once around it. Gotta love the graphics kit from that day on this old Colt. You can see the hood, she's kind of broken a little bit here and there. It's got some cracks. We'll kind of do a little bit of fiberglass work, put it back together. For this first rendition though, I'm not gonna have it perfect by any means, but go ahead and get some of the dirt off of this. It's got plenty of it. How can you not like that profile? That old Colt, it'll sure look awful nice next to that Panther. Let's get a good angle on it. We'll take a quick look here. The last time that this snowmobile's registered, 1979. I don't know what the numbers are on it for, but it gives it a nice racing look for this mighty 250 Colt. So we'll go ahead and get some soap and some water on it, and we'll do another little video update as far as how much better I know it's gonna look once it's cleaned up. Sydney was nice enough to put some water on this thing. This thing probably hasn't been washed, well, maybe ever, since it was brand new. So let's see how it looks. See how the graphics came out, even though of course it's old and faded and scratched. That's a pretty good graphics package. The blue, the red, and the white, pretty patriotic, pretty good look. So definitely looks a lot better getting some of that dirt off it, and it definitely could be better. This will help too. It'll make fiberglass repair be a little easier. Probably need to get a windshield on this thing at some point. Still got a whole bunch. You can see the remnants, all alfalfa pellets that got washed out, probably out of the skis and things. Get around here in the rocks without falling down. So just keep going around it. Yeah, it doesn't look half bad. Dad had actually got that seat recovered at one point, so it's probably not factory original type vinyl, but nice brown color, no holes in it, no tape on it, no duct tape. That's a rancher special. Fixing seats, none of that. Look at the dash. How are we looking? Heck, you can actually see the gauges and things now. How many miles does this thing have on it? Yeah, 27, 25 it looks like. So almost brand new. Looks like we'll need a new filler cap at some point. But this will give me a good spot to take it from here. Oh, don't look too bad from the back. I think we still got some mouse stuff we need to clean out here. Yeah, it looks good, huh? How about that? So, give me a good spot, get this down the shop, start tearing it apart, start figuring out what I need, and get some parts on order so we can hopefully put this thing on the snow here in just under 2 weeks. Here it is in the shop, so let's start tearing this thing down. I want to tear quite a ways into it over the next day or so, so if I have to order any parts, I can hopefully get them ordered and get them get them in time, and then get them installed in time if I'm wanting to take a ride here in less than 2 weeks. So here we go. Got the hood off. Our hood's in bad shape. As you can see, it's totally broke open right there. Looks like you maybe a little bit of piece missing. I did buy a fiberglass kit, so we'll go ahead and at least make it solid and in one piece. As you can maybe already see, it's not going to be a show machine, and that's going to be totally fine, but we already got the hood ripped off, and now we'll keep on going. I think I'm going to go ahead and jerk the muffler off next. With this full, everything else is packed full of mouse and other varmint type stuff. I can only imagine what I might find inside that thing. So don't know for sure. I think all we gotta do is probably remove our 2 springs here, and I'm guessing the whole thing lifts out. So anybody have any great guesses on what I'm gonna find? Is it going to be free and clear, or is it gonna be packed full of mouse stuff? Let's find out. Got the muffler off. We'll blow a little air through it, but I kind of shook it a little bit. It didn't feel ungodly heavy, so I think it might actually be okay, which is kind of a shocker to me, to tell you the truth, because a lot of times if other stuff is packed full, a lot of times the mufflers and things will be as well. So just a little tip, the only spot that it holds on was where those springs were, then right here on this Y pipe, and as you can see, it was not totally rusted together, but you know, kind of connected a little bit. So that's a good time to take your time. I put a little penetrating lubricant in it. I didn't let it sit forever, but every little bit helps. So, you know, I put some in there, went and did something different. Got my rubber hammer, did a little slight persuasion and caressing, and we got it off, and, you know, no damage or anything like that. So we're in good shape, and we're gonna continue on. When I first rolled this sled over the other day, it acted like it really didn't have too much for compression. So yesterday I went ahead and I brought 1 cylinder top dead center, and I put some Marvel Mystery Oil in it and let it sit overnight. And now I took this other cylinder, brought it to top dead center, put some Marvel Mystery in it, and we'll go ahead and let it sit for 24 hours too. And if those rings are stuck or anything, hopefully it'll loosen them up and we'll be in good shape. Dad had said, and I remember it too, this sled had compression when it was parked, and so there shouldn't have been any catastrophic failure to cause anything too much engine damage. It had been parked inside a shed, so no water damage or anything like that. So keep our fingers crossed. We'll know more tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have adequate compression in both cylinders. Quick little updates. We got all the bumper and front brackets and things tore off. So we're looking pretty clean on the front here. We went ahead and I took off the starter, and it's amazing the amount of crap it's in there. Of course, the rope was pulled off. We're missing a handle, so you have to do that. Dad mentioned something to me that thought maybe the recoil spring was maybe in there backwards, so I'm afraid I'm gonna have to take it apart anyway just to get the junk out of it, and then we'll see if we can have a major accident with the spring again, because I'm pretty good at doing that. For those of you that saw my Arctic Cat Panther video, I managed to totally explode the spring, take it apart, so chances are good I'll do it here too. One more quick little tip for everybody. Everybody out here is probably a better mechanic with better memory than me, but when I take stuff off, you know, like this is where the starter goes, and of course I'll put the big part to the side, but I go ahead and run the bolts back in where they went, including this one where the cable, it's a broken cable now, that holds the hood open. I went ahead and just put them back in spot. It's a lot easier to remember how everything goes back together when you have all the bolts kind of in the right spot. That way, if you don't get back to it the next day, and you know it's a month later, year later, we all know how it goes, it'll give you a fighting chance at getting it back together. Here's just another good look of all this junk that's in the bottom. That's underneath where the muffler was. So that was hard the other day to get, you know, either blown out or sucked out the vacuum. I mean, this stuff is just everywhere. I mean, it was level with the belly pan all the way across. So it's just amazing. Every little crevice you can see, you know, I cleaned some, you know, underneath the engine here, underneath the air box. You know, this hose that goes in the air box. Can't see it from this angle. Whoa, where's my camera? But I think it's packed full too. Right now my throttle cable, it doesn't actually pull, and so what I'm hoping is that the carbs are actually full of crap, and that's what's keeping the cables, and that with a little bit of lube and a little bit of movement, we can get them cables going again. But this is the sort of stuff we're finding as we dig into one of these old sleds, especially one that the rodents got to. Dang rodents. We now have the rear suspension out. There was a whole bunch of junk underneath the track and things too. Part of the reason I wanted to get that out. And I just want to check the condition of everything. Look at the high facts. High facts look to be in actually pretty decent shape. Look at that shock. Went ahead and bounced up and down a little bit. Shock appears to be working, so I think the suspension actually can go right back under it. Now that we got it out, I think we will go ahead and scuff it, clean it a little bit, and shoot a little bit of paint on it just to make it look a little bit better. Part of the reason that we went ahead and dropped this suspension and got everything up in the air, I'm not exactly sure how the seat comes off and how the tank comes off. I think it probably attaches from underneath, so it gave me a good reason to go ahead and take that out. We'll also take a good look at our track, take a look at the condition of our cleats, and make sure that they all look to be in good shape before we put everything back together. But we're doing fairly good at getting this thing torn down some. Do you ever have a favorite tool? This happens to be my favorite screwdriver that I have. I don't know, it's just the right sort of length. It's got the right blade width. It's the one I go to more often than not. So, I don't know, quick little break in the rest of our action to talk about my favorite screwdriver. And if this sounds crazy to you, then there's got to be more like me out here that you have that go-to. So, for the rest of you crazy people that have that favorite tool, this video is for you. All right, ladies and gents, this is wild. This is what the airbox looked like when I pulled it off. This is what the backside of the carburetors look like. I've never seen one this bad before. When I had tried the throttle cable here the other day, the throttle cable just did not move. After I'd seen that airbox, I thought, I bet it is probably stuffed full. I had no idea it was going to be this stuff full. I did get one of the slides out. That's what it looks like inside the carburetor. That's just insane. Tried getting this other one off, but it acts like it's pretty stuck in there. I don't want to break anything, so I'm going to start digging crap out of the back there, and I think we'll get to a point we can get that slide out. I'm guessing my cable is actually okay, but this is insane. Tell me in the comments if you ever ran into one quite this bad. I think it's time to call it a night. Went ahead and got this flywheel cover off. I do have a set of points that I need to put into it. That was the reason we stopped running this sled in the first place around the ranch. It had a cylinder that would kind of come in and out, and so I always figured a set of points, but never really did anything about it. There's just this alfalfa pellet stuff is just everywhere. It's behind the cover. The flywheel here, so I got more in the belly pan than what I started with. I finally got one of the carbs out, the slide out. This thing here is a bugger. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. This slide is just stuck. I've been soaking on it with carb cleaner. I've been soaking on it with some penetrating lubricant. I keep going to their screwdriver now and trying to pry it a little bit. Of course, I don't want to break anything. It is just terrible. So let it sit overnight and see if some of the soaking will help at all. The good news is I think my throttle cable is actually okay. It's just that slide stuck. That's the reason it wasn't wanting to work all that bad. Guess we'll see what happens. I might have to put some heat to it. I don't really want to all that bad. I'm not sure how heat will do on some of this carb stuff. But maybe if I don't get it too crazy hot, but maybe a little bit of heat will cause it to unstick. I don't know what's gonna be the solution here. So hopefully tomorrow will be a better day, but we're going to call it a night. Here's my sophisticated way to check compression. I have a socket that's almost the right size, close enough for this, and we have it on 1/2-inch electric drill. So I got my gauge set up there. We'll go ahead and I'll start twisting on this, and then we'll look at that gauge and see what we're going, or see what value we're going to get. So let's go ahead and put a little twist on this thing. All right, what are we at? See if we can get some focus. So we're about at 110. Let's see if that's going to go up any. It's a little more rotating. All right. So this cylinder here, we ended up getting about 115. I just checked the other cylinder using the same method and got right at 120. So and actually that's not 115. That's about 100, maybe 105, something like that. Anyway, so we got about 120 in one cylinder, about 105 on the other. That was after letting them sit with some Marvel Mystery Oil for at least 12 hours per side. So I'm actually pretty happy with those results. It'll definitely run with that amount of compression. So we're not going to go any deeper on the engine side of it, which I'm pretty happy about. And now we'll just continue with things like trying to get the carb unstuck and all that sort of fun stuff. But good news for now. Well, we have this thing torn fairly well down at this point. I went ahead and removed the seat and also removed the tank. So this is probably about as far as I'm going to rip this thing down. There's not a lot more it can be ripped down. We're pretty much there. One of the things I'm thinking about doing, since I do have this stripped down, is putting maybe a fresh coat of paint on it, kind of like lipstick on a pig at this point, but I think it will make a difference. And we're not going to go crazy show quality. We're just going to do a good scuff and probably, clean it a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and spray on it. So I was kind of looking at some of the blue paint that I had on hand. I have a couple different varieties. These are some different Rust-Oleum colors I have. I haven't even gone into my floored blue stash yet, but I went ahead and pulled the seat and was kind of looking at a color match, which one's going to be better. Looks like the darker paint is probably better. It's probably actually kind of a mix between that lighter blue and the darker blue, but I think in this case darker blue is going to be close enough. I mean, I could go online, I could get the correct color. I think if it's Polaris Midnight Blue for a 77 Colt, but I don't have that sort of time right now. Long run, it's probably not going to matter all that much either. Got the tank off, looked in it. Of course, it's got quite a bit of heavy layers of varnish to it. I went ahead and put a little bit of fresh gas in there. We'll go ahead and let that sit overnight, and then we're going to get to doing some shaking and that sort of stuff and try to get that cleaned out as best we can, and then make sure that we can suck fuel, out of the pickup and out of the tank there. So far, the hose inside the tank looks like it's okay, but I guess we'll know more once we get a little more fuel in there. So yeah, we got her torn down pretty good. So part of that's a little bit exciting, part of it's a little bit scary, because as you can see, there's not much left at this point. So I'm thinking it's gonna look a heck of a lot better once we start going back together with it and put a little bit of paint on it. I went ahead and did some more vacuuming inside the pan. I could probably get down there with a bristle brush and wire brush, something like that, and do quite a bit better job, but I don't know that I'm going to. At this point, it looks fairly good. As more stuff keeps falling out, we'll keep vacuuming it out, but for now, we're gonna call it. So one of the next steps I'm gonna have to do underneath the hood here is go ahead and I need to get a 30mm socket so I can pull that flywheel. That'll allow me to get to the points. And yeah, we're not too far away from trying to go back together with some stuff. I got quite a few parts on order right now for this thing. I got a set of carbs coming. I went ahead and I tried with that one set of carbs, that one carb that had the slide stuck. I did my best to try to get that slide undone. I had it in a pot of boiling water for about 5 minutes last night, and then just let it sit in that pot, all night long. Tried some various stuff. It just won't break loose at this point. I'll keep dinking with it, and maybe at some point it will, and I'll be able to salvage them. For right now, I needed to go to plan B. So plan B, I found a set of carbs for a 340 Colt. They come with the cables and everything. Look pretty good picture on eBay. Look pretty clean. So we're going to throw those carbs in when they come. I went ahead and ordered a fuel pump kit just in case. I ordered a pull handle. I also have a windshield on the way. So hopefully that's going to be enough parts to get this thing going again. The next big thing, of course, is I'm pretty sure we're going to be okay on the compression side. I think we'll have enough to make it run. Looking at the fuel tank, I have confidence that we'll be able to get fuel to it, and especially with that fuel pump kit I have. So spark is that next big thing that we need to tear into. And I do have the set of points, but of course need to be able to get that flywheel off so I can get in there and do something with it. So anyway, we're just gonna keep on keeping on. It was time to pay a little attention to the fuel side of things. I was hopeful it wasn't going to be too bad, but you never know on these sort of things. When I worked with that old Arctic cat of mine, the pickup tube inside the tank was totally rotted off, and I pretty much had to start over. So this one here, I was kind of curious what I was going to find. A lot of the external line outside the tank, like to the fuel pump and the carbs, pretty poor shape. And so, I held out hope that the pickup line would be okay, but just didn't know for sure. You can kind of see there's that port on the tank and the way that this works. This is the fitting. It screws into the tank, and then this part would go to your external fuel line. And this is the pickup tube. It's got like a weighted thing on the bottom of it, so it stays in the bottom of the tank. And of course that just goes inside. I was pleasantly surprised when I pulled that out. Put my finger on the end of it. I sucked on it. Doesn't appear to be any holes or tears in it, so that is good. My inside the tank is okay. It looked like there's a little bit of varnish buildup inside, which I totally expected. I went ahead and put some fresh gas in it and let it sit overnight. And then, one of the nice things, I guess, about having some gravel on the floor here is I went ahead and put some rock inside it and then shook it all around. Think of a hula hoop motion. Just shake, shake, shake. And that rock will help dislodge any stuff that's in the tank there. I almost made a mistake, though, is that I never put my hand inside where the filler neck is. There's actually a big lip there. So it was actually kind of difficult to get all the rock out of it. I had to really do some upside down shaking and finally got them all out of there. So I was pretty happy when that happened. This tank, I'm going to clean it up. I don't know what to do with it. You can kind of see there it was a dark blue color. I know that people typically have terrible luck with painting tanks. I don't know. I might try it. Just kind of clean it off real good and see what happens. I guess if it all bubbles off, then so be it. I'll just sand it and leave it, this natural craptastic color that it currently is. But for right now, I'm going to call our fuel side a win. So we're getting our compression side figured out. We're getting our fuel side figured out. Onto the spark side. I'm digging into this, going to replace the points anyway, but I thought I'd go ahead and spin this thing over, see if it got any spark. So I took my handy dandy Harbor Freight ignition tester and plugged it in line there. Made sure the key was on, put the kill switch in what I thought was the run position. Cranked it over with my drill and nothing. Suspect, I didn't know if the kill switch is in the right position or not, so I played with it. I switched cylinders back and forth. Nothing. Took a light, shined it inside there where I can see. Those points look pretty terrible. It was packed full of crap, like the rest of the sled was. So I'm thinking those points might be really, really poor shape. I need to go inside there anyway. I did pick up a socket so I could at least take the flywheel nut off. And I don't have long enough bolts for my flywheel puller. So I'm going to have to get some bolts to make that happen. I'll be curious to see what we find in there and then keep my fingers crossed. I sure hope when we get those new points in there, when I spin that over, I got spark. Otherwise, I'm going to have to spend some time looking at some of my wiring, looking at coils, looking at different stuff to see where the problem might be. So It's the only thing that's causing me a little concern as of right now. After making the comment that maybe I'd try to scuff this tank and paint it, I just thought back to that age-old wisdom of you just don't paint plastic gas tanks. It just doesn't work. So I went ahead and thought, well, what happens if I sand on a little bit or scuff on a little bit? You know, will the actual true color start coming back through a little bit more? And I think it actually is going to. So let's look at this side. This is the weathered side. This is what it's been looking like. And then this is the side that I played around with a little bit and scuffed on a little bit. As you can tell, it's definitely brought some of that color back. Is it going to be perfect? No, it's not going to be perfect. That's what the bottom side of that looks like. So you can see the difference. But it's way better than that faded color, like what we're seeing kind of in that strip, you know, right there. So I think we're going to spend a little bit of time and scuff on that a little bit and see if we can bring some color back. And I think it'll be a worthwhile effort. If we run out of time, then, you know, I'll go ahead and slap it together. And that might be something that happens more so in the future. But we'll spend a little bit of time on it and see if we can make it look better. We only have spark on one cylinder, and the points don't look terrible. I had checked their gap about, I don't know, 10 thousandths or so I can play around with that a little bit more. But I don't know, I think every now and then I see a faint spark in the other cylinder, but it's not consistent at all. One of the things I had done, here's some plugins here for my coils, and so I had swapped those connections basically as a way to test my coils to see if they were okay. And when I did that, you know, I could get the other plug wire to fire. So I'm pretty convinced that my coils are actually okay. So that gets me back to probably this area with the points. And so I guess I need to tear into this a little bit further. I was planning on taking my digital multimeter and, you know, tracing a wire. I think it's this set of points kind of right in front of my camera right here. But I'll go ahead and do a little bit of testing with that continuity check and see where we're at. And then I guess we'll try to get that set of points out, and hopefully that's it. If it's not, I'm going to be a little bit at a loss on what it might be. Here's that plug wire where we weren't getting any spark before. I went ahead and tracked it down to a certain set of points. They didn't really look all that bad to me. I went ahead and took a little bit of sandpaper, cleaned up the contacts a little bit, and then I went ahead and reset it up at about, I don't know, 14 thousandths gap, 15 thousandths, somewhere in there. So now, when I take it, put my old drill to her, we got spark. We now have spark in both cylinders. So that's a huge win for tonight. So we have compression. I think the fuel system's at a spot where we're gonna have fuel. Now we have spark. So I'm just waiting on a few parts, including my carburetors. Hopefully be here early next week. Tomorrow's Sunday, so there's gonna have to be quite a bit of work that I get done then. But I'm starting to get a good feeling that this thing will end up being able to go on a snowmobile ride next week. Getting pretty excited now. I watch YouTube videos, and there's some people, they can keep stuff so organized and it's so clean, and their workspace is spotless, and they just do fantastic work. And you know, maybe I'll get there someday, but whew, that is currently not my working style. So I got stuff scattered. I got brackets painted over here, exhaust pipe there. I got a hood I need to fix. I got stuff scattered. I have a ski off so I can scuff it, so I'm gonna put some paint on it. I got tools scattered everywhere, including using another sled as a workbench. You know, that one's kind of all tilted cattywampus. More stuff on the floor that I should be putting away. Continues to go on over here. Here's an air hose, a couple paint cans that I went through. There's my suspension I need to put in. Then just the gamut of paint cans and carb parts and all sorts of stuff on my trailer. Oh, and by the way, did I mention it's Monday? Yeah, this is the week that I want to take kids snowmobiling on Saturday, and this is currently Monday. So there is a ton of stuff still to do, and I just got to keep at it. This is like the last warm day we're going to have for a while. So if I got stuff to paint, it pretty much has to be done today. And so there's going to be probably a push later on the night so I can get stuff painted and then be assembling stuff the rest of the week. I did get most of the parts I needed off of eBay, and so I don't know if I'll get to fire it up tomorrow, but by Wednesday at the latest, I need to really have this thing fired up. I think it should all be ready to go. I just run, some new fuel hose and get it started up. But I guess we'll see. But the clock is ticking. Where are we at as of Tuesday night? So I finally did get my front bumper painted. We're using that Duplicolor rust barrier paint, and I like the fact that you're supposed to be able to paint over stuff that maybe isn't 100% spotless clean, but it takes forever to dry, especially in some cooler conditions. A lot of paint, you can, spray it, and 15 minutes later, it's dry enough, you can either recoat or turn over, do whatever. This stuff takes forever. So at this point, I just got the bottom coat done on it, and so it's going to sit overnight, and I'll put it on tomorrow. It looks like we made a little bit of progress. So we got the skis back on it. Got the seat on it. The tank is installed for the final time. So that's good. We can see that the suspension sitting over there is painted, ready to go. There's those rods that go through it. I'm going to call them spindle rods for lack of a better term. I don't know what they are. They go all the way through the suspension, and the ones that mount to the sled tunnel. I went ahead and pulled those rods out and got those greased up. So tomorrow, when I'm able to get back to it after work, I'll be able to get the suspension thrown underneath there. So that's good. Boy, tomorrow we got to probably get this thing running for tomorrow. The only thing that I did tonight was I went ahead and put a fuel line from the fuel tank, put a new fuel filter in there, hooked it to the fuel pump. So that part of it should be done. So tomorrow we'll go ahead and throw the carbs in there, run some new lines from the pump to the carbs, and then put some gas in it and see if we can get that thing to run. It's going to be a really, really bad day if for some reason it won't run for me. It'll be pretty heartbreaking, to tell you the honest truth. I haven't done nothing, jack squat, nothing with the hood yet. So I'll have to figure out how that's going to work into the big scheme of things. As far as back here, I don't know if you remember earlier, our bumper was pretty terrible shape. I went ahead and banged on her a little bit and straightened on her a little bit. It's not good. It's a lot better than it was. Fresh paint cures a lot. So that's on there. Couldn't find my rivets to put my snow flat back on, so put the snow flat back on, and there's a little kind of Mickey Mouse door hinge style hitch that was on it. Might as well throw that back on there. So yeah, it looks like we're getting there. It's been a slow deal. One of those things taking way longer than it should have. I could have just slapped this thing together dirty grungy style and had it ready to go, but you know what? I figured if I didn't do anything with this thing now, as far as the paint and stuff, I just wasn't going to probably do it later. So it's probably worthwhile that I did it. Oh, the starter. My wife did pick up some new rope for me. So I'm going to have to go ahead and put the rope in it. And of course, get that put on there. So that's one more thing. But like I said, tomorrow, we need to see fire coming out of this. Otherwise, it's going to be a real scramble over the last couple days. Oh, and just in case I didn't have enough to do, these trailer tires are shot, so I need to get them pulled off tomorrow night so I can send them to my wife so she can get me some new tires for Thursday. So that's something. And then this snowmobile, this is the one I took down to Idaho. It's my spare sled, and it had a plugged pilot jet on one of the carburetors. So I need to actually pull the carbs out of this thing and clean one of the pilot jets to be ready to go for Saturday as well. So no shortage of stuff to do or scrambling to do before we get to Saturday. So cross your fingers, wish me luck, and we'll give you an update after what we get done tomorrow. We're going to work on getting that suspension underneath the sled. Remember, putting suspension back under one, it's not an Olympic sport. There's no reason to see if you can do this like a NASCAR pit stop. So take your time, just kind of work it in a little bit here, a little bit there. Make sure you get it all lined up in the high facts and the grooves in the track, all that sort of good stuff. For those that watched my Arctic Cat video, use a floor jack or something like that to go ahead, and that way you can lower or raise the sled as needed to get those mounting points lined up in the tunnel. The better you can get it lined up and the easier the bolts go in, it just makes it a way easier process for everybody involved. So take your time and have fun, because this should be fun. That part went in way easy, so now we'll just go to the next part of the jack and start lowering that thing in position. One of the things I'll throw out as a tip too, if for some reason you have struggle getting it lined up again, it's worth to go ahead and shorten your axle. It makes it easier to get it bolted back up, and then you can always tighten it back up and tighten your track back up. I've had to do that in the past, but first we'll just try it the nice easy way and see what happens. You know, don't ever be afraid to change your tactics up if you think something else might work better. I had that back of it blocked up a little bit, and I was having heck getting that track far enough back position to even be anywhere close. So in this case, I took that big 6x6 block and realized if I started pushing it further forward on the track, that would want to cantilever back, and it would actually put more tension on it in the backwards direction. And so I'm pretty well lined up with my hole on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and start a bolt, and then, you know, use screwdrivers, punches, whatever, get stuff close, get it lined up, get bolts started, and just keep working at it and you'll get there. Got the bolts on the other side, but this side the suspension seemed way high in the sled. Seemed like it's twisted a little bit. So what do? You know, I put a little chunk of 2x4 underneath that ski, and it went ahead and lifted the front of the sled just enough that if you can see it, I'm pretty well lined up. I think I can get the bolt started there too. If we look at our alignment here, we can see that we're about the right height with how I have this whole thing blocked up. So we have the right height, but the back piece there needs to come forward a little bit. So you can play around with it. Sometimes different height ranges as you sweep through the suspension. Sometimes it lines up better than the others. Here's another way to do it. There's a ratchet strap I have connected to that rod area there up front, actually where the exhaust pipe goes out. If I pull forward with that ratchet strap a few clicks, it'll go ahead and line that bolt hole up, and I'll be able to easily get it started. So sometimes just break it down to easy concepts. These are things, if you haven't done this before, can really fight you. Just make it easy. So I'll show you what it looks like after a couple clicks of this strap. So there we go, click it a few times, looks pretty lined up to me. We'll be able to get our bolt in there, and something tells me, I bet we're close to lined up on the other side. Might be able to get our bolt started. If not, we'll go ahead and transfer our strap to the other side, do a similar procedure, and we'll have the suspension whipped. Suspension's in, and no special cussing required. Another thing I'll throw out there is that when I put these bolts in there, I always use NICs. So NICs, of course, works good as both a lubricant and then something, of course, you can get apart later on. So double purpose, double good stuff, and starting to look a little bit more like a snowmobile now. Now let's concentrate on those things. It's going to start make vroom vroom noises. Many thanks go out to that donor sled on Evil Bay that gave up its heart so that this one may have a chance to live. I don't look at these carbs too close. They look pretty dang good, to tell you the truth. I'm going to go ahead and jerk float bowl on them. Take a quick look at everything underneath. Make sure main jets look open. Make sure pilot jets look good. And then we're going to go ahead and throw them together. All right, it's a moment of truth. We're going to see if we can get this thing to pop off just a little bit. You can see I still don't have the exhaust pipe on it, so I don't really want it to run too long. I haven't actually fixed the recoil starter yet either. We're gonna use the drill, spin this thing over, and see if we can get it to pop. Now, you already know if you watch my channel, I don't always do things quite the right way, and this probably isn't 100% the right way to do this. We got the carbs in there, we got fuel hooked up. I think it should go, and like I said, all we're looking for is a good pop. If we can get that pop that acts like it wants to run, we'll go ahead and I'll get that recoil starter fixed, and then we'll start it up and run it for good. But let's just see what's gonna happen. So we'll go ahead and put the choke on, full choke. Make sure my drill's gonna spin the right way. Make sure my throttle is closed. It's closed. Key is in, make sure it's in the on position. Key is in the on position. All right, here we go. That's pretty odd. I'm not getting nothing. It almost acts like I can see the fuel going through the fuel line, but almost acting like I'm not getting any spark. So maybe I'll check spark real quick, or let's give it one more quick little go. Okay, that's not what I expected. So let's go ahead, grab my handy dandy spark tester, which I have right here. Let's throw her in line real quick and see what I got. Hopefully it's something easy, like no spark, like a kill switch is on or something like that. Let's see. Okay, that's odd. We have spark on that cylinder. Okay. All right, let's pop this one off real quick. See what happens. All right, let's see what we get here. Well, that might have been that pop I was looking for, although my spark didn't seem real consistent here. Let's try her again, see what happens. Okay, well, we got more to look at here. Let me stop this segment and take a look at some stuff. All right, take two. I got to doing a little bit of looking around, and all of a sudden I didn't have any spark on one of my cylinders. The cylinder didn't have spark on before, which I thought was really odd. And then started doing a little bit of looking around, and evidently my plug wire is too short for some reason. It's maybe always been too short, I don't know. And it had pulled out of the coil. So that explains that. I went ahead and pulled it out of the holder, and I plugged it back into the coil. Now I had spark. Did some more cranking on it. Couldn't get it to start. A couple times it backfired out the back of the carburetor just a little bit, which made me think that timing was off. Can't remember if I mentioned on camera or not when I had put everything back together, as far as when the points, there is a cam built into this one mechanism, and I thought I had it set up the right way. I'm guessing maybe I didn't. Here's what I did, is I went ahead and I switched my two coil wires, which probably isn't the exact right way to do it, but I thought what's gonna happen if I try switching those coil wires? Is it gonna happen or not? And so I'll show you what I found out. So we'll put the drill back to her. I got her on half choke, and so we'll give her a little spin over. Okay. Key was in the off position. Let's put her to the on position. Let's give her a try. popped off. Let me do this one more time here. I actually did have it running there for a second just off camera. You know how camera deals work. We'll put full choke on her and see what happens. Except I'm not sure it should run quite like that. The coil wire should be connected the right way. So I think I do know what the problem is. I think I need to pull this cover. I think I need to pull the flywheel one more time. I think I need to switch over that cam that drives the points, and then I think it's gonna be okay. So it's a little bit of redo, a little bit of rework. But did you hear that? It fired right up. I have faith. It ran. It was on 2 cylinders when it was running too. So the rework part is not so good, especially when it's 9:20 something at night. But I think I know what the problem is. I think I can get to it pretty fast. So let me go ahead and do that off camera, and we'll come back and we'll see if I actually fixed it or not. All right, take 3 on is this thing going to run. So I went in there, and that little cam that runs the points, I went ahead and rotated it 180 degrees. I think that's gonna fix the problem. I got the coil wiring lined up color to color like it should be. I left the external cover off just in case I have to go back into it. I got the key on. Let's rotate this thing with the drill. And if I'm right, like I think I am, it should fire right up and want to run. So let's see if I'm right about it being off on the timing. Here we go. Okay, we're just a little bit throttle. So I screwed that up. I usually screw at least one thing up on reassembly. That was it. So, hey, great news. It's running! It's running! So happy. So now I gotta go ahead and get the starter put back together, get my bumper stuff put on. I still got some work to do, but as you remember earlier here in the video, we talked about Wednesday night. This is Wednesday. We had to get this thing running. And so it is running. I got the air box still to clean out. Still got a few things to piece back together, but this thing is gonna work. Here's our Wednesday night update. We have the front bumper on. That's a good thing. We have the track and the suspension under it. That's a good thing. Hard to see that angle in the lighting. We have the carbs put into it, and our cables run, and our choke cable. And as we've seen earlier, this thing is going to run, even though we had some missteps because of my screw up. We got that fixed, so it's gonna run. We still have that recoil starter that we need to fix. We still got the air box we need to get cleaned up. I got the snow flap still to put on. I gotta check fluid in the chain case. But we're getting fairly close. So I'm gonna call it a night for tonight, at least as far as working on the sled. I need to go ahead and jerk some trailer tires so they can get brought to the tire shop tomorrow and get some new tires. So that seems like it's a pretty important thing to get done for tonight. So we're feeling pretty high spirits because of it actually running. We do have some work ahead of us though. We had to pull the starter apart anyway because the rope was broke off, but this is kind of gunk that we're seeing there inside that starter. Luckily I didn't do anything too crazy with the spring. It's fine as is. Make sure it don't fall out when I get that dust and stuff. I took a picture of this whole mechanism. Hopefully it'll go back together right. And then this is the starter rope that was in it. I'm guessing Dad maybe put that in at one point. That is not recoil rope for sure. A little bit of pain in the butt to get out, but we got it out now. Do a little bit of cleaning and we'll throw it back together. I really fought this thing. There's the pawl spring, I think you call it. I'm not sure if I have it in there right or not. Right now it seems like it's working. I'm pulling it in and out. I put about 4 turns of preload on it on the spring. So I think right now we'll go ahead and install it on the machine and get our handle tied on there, and I guess we'll give it a go. But hope it's gonna work. I'm not real happy how it went together, but I guess we'll find out. So here's something fun. I went ahead and I got the starter finally back together, got it all connected up, got the machine started, run a little bit rough, but then I went ahead and got it cleaned up a little bit, just air screw and throttle adjustment, let it warmed up a little bit. So okay, so let's give it a little throttle and see if it's going to move forward. So I kept giving it throttle, give it throttle, give it throttle. It revved pretty far up, no engagement. You know, they usually engage 3,000-ish RPM, something like that. Nothing. I finally looked at my attack at one point, 6,000 RPM, nothing. So went ahead, and I knew it wasn't my secondary clutch, but I looked at my secondary clutch a little bit after I pulled the belt. It was a little bit sticky and stuff, and I thought, you know what? I had seen crap packed in that primary clutch, and thought, you know what? I'm going to take it apart and see what I see. So I got this thing apart, had some crap and stuff in it, and yeah, it was all, it was stiff. Hadn't been lubricated, I'm sure, with the mouse stuff in there, dried it out some. So I was able to get it broke loose. I'm going to grease her up good, and I don't see anything damaged to the point it's not going to work. So I have pretty good confidence that once I get it greased back up and put it back together, it's going to work. But geez, yeah, just you never know what you're going to find in these things when you tear into them. And I guess we fix as we go and get on to the next obstacle. I'm a little confused here. It's running, but the idle's kind of hunting up and down. It'll rev up a little bit, and then it'll fall down, and then it'll pick back up. So I don't know quite what it's doing. I had it idling like this before, and it finally shut down, and then I couldn't get it started for a little bit. And I played around with it, finally hooked my ignition tester back up to it, and it all of a sudden fired. So it's gonna die right now. So I'm not quite so sure what that's all about. I don't know if it has something to do with where my jetting's currently set or something like that. So, oh geez, is it gonna run in this state and be dependable? I don't know. I'm gonna have to play with it a little bit more before I feel comfortable take on the trip. So I guess keep your fingers crossed. Yeah, after it died, I played with it some more. It pops and sputters a little bit, but it's not coming back. It almost acts like it's flooded a little bit. It's getting late. It's Thursday night. I'm not sure what I feel like at the end of tonight. Definitely a different feeling than last night. So maybe tomorrow we'll bring something new and different. Take a look at some things. See if we're flooding out. See if got any floats stuck. You know, something along those lines. Needle seat open. I don't know. I guess we'll maybe find out more tomorrow. So here we are. It's been about exactly a week since that last segment. And spoiler alert, we did not get this thing out on the snow as part of our snowmobile trip. I didn't intend to make a part 1 and part 2 video, but I think that's what we're gonna end up doing. It got really frustrating. As we could see earlier in the video, I could get it running, and I got to the point, like the last time I got it running was probably the best it sounded. It was consistently on 2 cylinders. It seemed to be idling good, pick up good. You know, finally got that primary clutch figured out, so it was wanting to engage good. And then it went ahead and I think I shut it off. I don't think it quit. I think I shut it off. Never could get it going again. And the first cylinder that I started off with, good spark at the beginning when we started working on this, that cylinder seemed to go away. I got better spark in my other cylinder. And so I'm still fighting some ignition gremlins, if you will. So I just had to walk away. Got to the point Friday night there. It was pretty evident that it wasn't going to happen. The last time I quit, I pulled it over. Finally pulled the rope out of the starter. The knot must not have been quite big enough. And at that point, I just needed to walk away and concentrate on us getting everything together so we could actually take our snowmobile ride. So what's next steps? What does part 2 actually look like for this snowmobile? I did not do not one thing to the hood, so that's something that we can fix. I do have a windshield for it. We'll get the windshield on. That'll be better, but of course those are all aesthetic type things. What are we gonna do on the engine side of it? The condensers, never did anything with them. The old points, clean them up, but maybe it's time to get the new points in. Maybe it's time to get some condensers on order and just go forth with some new condensers. The old plug wires, while I think they should probably be okay, it's probably time to get some new plug wires and some new boots. I'll probably try that first before we do anything with the coil. I think the coils are still working okay, but that might be something we need to think about at some point. And so I think at that point, once we get these little ignition things taken care of and done, I think it's gonna be running, plumb fine and be something that we can reliably use in the years coming up, but not this year, not in 2023. So we'll see what the timing looks like. I don't want this to go, linger throughout the entire summer and fall and forget about it too much. So hopefully maybe over the next month or two, we'll see how my schedule looks, is that we'll get some parts on order. We'll dig into it. We'll do a part 2 video. And, this part 1, will it run? Kind of. Part 2 will be absolutely, yes, it runs. And it's going to be something that is reliable and we can use for the kids to go ride around and have some fun with. So stay tuned for part 2, and thank you for viewing.